I stared at the ornate mahogany box containing my father's ashes, unable to process the absurd condition in his will. My younger sister sat beside me, visibly stunned. The lawyer cleared his throat. As you both heard, to inherit the full Ashton estate, one of you must demonstrate substantial personal growth and a significant contribution to the family legacy within 1 year's time. Cassidy recovered first. This is ridiculous, she burst out. Dad always doted on me. I'm his precious little princess. I shot her a look. Cassidy had been our father's favorite, constantly showered with gifts and attention, while I had to fight for every scrap of approval. No surprise she assumed she'd get everything. There must be a mistake, Cassidy insisted, rounding on the lawyer. Or did someone mislead my father into adding this insane clause? The withered old man shook his head solemnly. I can assure you, your father was of sound mind and judgment when he set these terms. He expressed a desire to see which of his daughters had the determination and character to honor the Ashton name. I felt a surge of vindication. For once, my Hasid work ethic and business savvy would be rewarded over Cassidy's penchant for living lavishly off our family's wealth. Our father had finally acknowledged that inheriting his real estate empire required more than just being born into money. Well, this is an outrage, Cassidy sputtered, her face flushed red. I want to contest the will immediately. You're welcome to try, I said evenly, but you know how resolute Dad could be. This was his final wish for us. Cassidy's piercing glare met mine, a hint of menace entering her hazel eyes. Don't get too confident, sis. I know how to play hardball when I need to. An icy premonition gripped me then. I was determined to secure my father's legacy through hard work and honorable business dealings. But would Cassidy resort to underhanded schemes to wrest control of the inheritance? I wouldn't put it past her conniving ways. The next year would be a grueling battle of wits and wills, and I had no intention of losing, no matter what my spiteful little sister might try. I should have seen Cassidy's betrayal coming from a mile away. Within weeks of the reading of Dad's will, whispers began circulating about my business practices. Allegedly, I was skimming profits, cutting corners on construction, and exploiting loopholes to sidestep regulations. The rumors reached feverish levels at a high-stakes real estate summit where I was introducing my groundbreaking Riverwalk Residences project to potential investors. As I took the stage, I noticed Elliot Jameson, my closest colleague and father's former protege, averting his eyes with a troubled expression. Thank you all for coming, I began. As you know, Riverwalk Residences will not only expand our luxury residential portfolio, but will also drive much-needed urban renewal in a neglected part of the city. Mutters and sidelong glances rippled through the crowd. I pressed on, attempting to project confidence, but it was clear the room had already turned against me. After the disastrous presentation, Elliot approached with obvious discomfort. Loralee, I need to be upfront with you. I've heard some very disturbing allegations that could impact the Riverwalk project. What allegations? I demanded. You know these rumors are slanderous lies. Elliot's jaw tightened. About your business practices, cutting corners, manipulating rules and regulations for your own gain at the expense of sound construction and urban planning. I was stunned by his sudden lack of faith in me. You're letting vicious gossip cloud your judgment, Elliot? After everything we've been through together? His shoulders slumped in what seemed like resignation. I want to trust you, Loralee. I really do. But the sheer volume of rumors from multiple sources is hard to ignore. Well, I know exactly who's behind this, I said through gritted teeth. Think about it, Elliot. Who benefits most if my reputation gets dragged through the mud? Understanding slowly spread across his features, but he seemed unwilling to voice Cassidy's name directly. I don't have proof of anything. I just think we need to get ahead of this before it derails your entire Riverwalk vision. I gave a mirthless chuckle. You're a smart man, Elliot. Use your deductive reasoning skills here. Who has the most incentive and the fewest scruples to sabotage me like this? He sighed heavily, still avoiding Cassidy's name. Whether from denial or just not wanting to verbalize his mentor's daughter being so underhanded, I couldn't tell. As Elliot turned to leave, a blank-faced beauty slinked up and looped her arm through his. Looking smug, she gave me a mocking little finger wave. Of course. There was Cassidy herself, already insinuating herself into Elliot's trusted circle. I'd confront my treacherous sister soon enough, but first I needed to overcome this sudden roadblock and find a way to win Elliot back to my side before it was too late. A few days later, I got a frantic call from one of my senior architects. "Loralee, you'd better get down to the office right away. We have a serious security breach." When I arrived, the team was in full crisis mode, with hackers having infiltrated our database and extracted reams of proprietary information, including all the confidential plans, budgets, and contracts for the Riverwalk Residences project. "This is a devastating blow," my lead consultant told me grimly. "Not only have our trade secrets been compromised, that data could be used by competitors to undercut and sabotage us at every turn." I was seething. There was no doubt in my mind who was behind this. "It's that snake Cassidy trying to completely undermine Riverwalk so she can make a play for Dad's inheritance herself." Bursting into Elliot's office, I confronted him head-on. "Don't play dumb with me, Jameson. I know you're the one who leaked those files to my rivals out of some demented sense of loyalty to Cassidy." His eyes widened in shock. "Loralee, what are you accusing me of? I had no part in any breach or data leak. Why would you think? Who else could it be?" I shouted. "You're the only one who had full access to those plans besides me, and ever since Cassidy started whispering lies in your ear, you've been acting strangely, distancing yourself from me, questioning my integrity out of nowhere." Elliot shook his head vehemently. "Cassidy hasn't whispered anything to me. Our relationship is strictly professional." I laughed derisively at that. "Oh, I'm sure it is, at least for now until she gets what she wants." Slamming his palms on the desk, Elliot rose to his feet with an incredulous look. "I can't believe you'd even insinuate that I'd ever do anything to betray you, or this company. We're like family, damn it." "Yeah? Well, my own flesh and blood has certainly made it clear that family means nothing." Elliot visibly deflated, suddenly looking weary. "Loralee, you need to get a grip here. This knee-jerk accusation against me is just paranoia talking. I'm still the same person you've worked alongside for years." I wasn't hearing it. I was too deep in betrayal fury. "Well, this paranoia is me protecting my own interests when no one else will. Including you, apparently." Turning on my heel, I stormed out of Elliot's office, but not before hearing his defeated mumble, "I've never been anything but loyal to you, Loralee." It figured that Cassidy's twisted manipulations had not only jeopardized my company, but turned one of my closest allies against me through lies and deception. Fine, if everyone was against me, I'd just have to go it alone. But Cassidy would pay dearly for her vile, conniving ways. I'd make sure of it. With my reputation in tatters and Riverwalk's future clouded in uncertainty, I found myself at a crossroads. Part of me wanted to forge ahead, relying on my grit and skills to survive this nightmare Cassidy had unleashed. But another part felt beaten down by the overwhelming forces arrayed against me. It was during this low point that a former rival, Marcus Kingsley, reached out unexpectedly. Marcus and I had battled fiercely over prime development sites for years before finally calling a tentative truce. "I heard what's been going on," he said, getting straight to the point when we met up. "This obvious smear campaign against you and Riverwalk." I laughed bitterly. "So much for keeping things confidential. My company's darkest secrets are being plastered all over the city." "Well, that's just it," Marcus said, leaning in conspiratorially. "From everything I'm hearing, these dark secrets are completely fabricated. Someone's been very calculated in leaking false information to turn the entire real estate community against you." "You don't have to tell me who," I muttered darkly. "My charming sister Cassidy has made her move to sabotage me out of the inheritance." Marcus shook his head in disgust. "Feuding siblings creating a cesspool of chaos. I've seen it all too many times in this business. But you know what, Loralee? You can't let some vindictive little brat derail everything you've worked for." His words rang true. As much as it hurt to be betrayed by my own flesh and blood, dwelling on Cassidy's treachery would only drag me down further into her toxic web. It was time to fight back with every weapon in my arsenal. "So what did you have in mind?" I asked Marcus, regaining some of my resolve. A slow grin spread across his weathered features. "Well, for starters, we combine forces on Riverwalk. My construction expertise and access to no-hassle zoning routes, your design vision and land rights will blow this thing out of the water despite your slippery sister's best efforts. I considered the olive branch momentarily before reaching across the table to shake Marcus's hand, sealing our new alliance. You've got a deal, partner. It's time I stopped playing defense and went full offensive on this two-faced snake of a sibling. That's what I like to hear, Marcus said approvingly. Let's take the gloves off and show this little Princess Cassidy how the real estate world operates, the Laurel Ashton way. With renewed determination, I set in motion a counterattack to finally put Cassidy in her place once and for all. No more defense, no more reservations. If she wanted a fight for the Ashton legacy, she'd get one, and she'd live to regret ever crossing me. With Marcus Kingsley now allied with me, I felt re-energized to take the fight directly to Cassidy. We set up a covert ops war room of sorts, analyzing every angle to disrupt her smear campaign and undermine her own underhanded maneuvers. We know she's been using sex appeal to worm her way into getting inside information, Marcus said, tapping a photo of Cassidy canoodling with yet another gullible businessman. So let's use that very same weapon against her. He gestured to a ruggedly handsome younger man who'd just arrived. Lauralee, meet Brett Connors, former male model turned corporate players, our climber. With his, talents, he'll make your sister's head spin right off those slender shoulders of hers. Brett flashed a winning smile that could melt glaciers. I'm skilled at separating marks from their senses, that's for sure. Just point me at the target. I had to admit, deploying this human honey trap strategy against Cassidy's own games felt deliciously devious. All right, Romeo, here's the deal. Over the next few weeks, I got regular updates on Brett's insidious seduction of my sister. Whirlwind dates, intimate conversations, even a tropical getaway. He had completely ensnared Cassidy in his web of Hollywood charm and deception. Believe me, she is utterly blind to anything except her lust for me at this point, Brett reported smugly. That pathetic snake is putty in my hands. When I met up with Brett in person, I was admittedly taken aback by his raw animal magnetism. But I reminded myself this was all business as I laid out the next crucial phase of my counter-operation. Once Cassidy's guard is down completely, I need you to extract her secrets, find out every vile thing she's plotted against me, the ruined Riverwalk, the deception with Elliot, all of it. Then rip the rug out and show her the vapid, selfish creature she really is. Consider it done, Brett purred with serpentine confidence. Making my mark crave and worship me, only to reject her utterly once I have what I want? That's what I was quite literally born to do, gorgeous. As much as using such an underhanded ally made me cringe inside, I reminded myself that this was hardball business now, and my ruthless sister had forced my hand. Cassidy's claws were out, so it was time to fight fangs with venom. Let's see how pretty and poised she'd stay when her endless craving for flesh was harvested by the ultimate hustler and exploited for my gain. It was the annual Ashton Family Legacy Gala, where our elite circle of relatives, business partners, and high society all gathered to celebrate my father's prosperous real estate empire. The perfect stage for taking down my treacherous sister. Cassidy waltzed into the ballroom looking absolutely radiant in a shimmering silver gown, flashing her usual smug smile as she worked the crowd. Little did she know, her life was about to come crashing down around those double-crossing shoulders of hers. "There's my little princess," I called out loudly, broadcasting fake sisterly sweetness. "Come join me, dear sister, I insist." Cassidy's brow furrowed with suspicion, but she acquiesced, joining me at the prime grand foyer table beside Elliot and the other top executives. As the meal commenced, I made a point of loudly lauding my stunning new addition to the Ashton family legacy. "I want to recognize the invaluable role Brett Connors has played in reviving the Riverwalk Residence project," I proclaimed, squeezing his hand. "Thanks to his opportunistic skills and emphatic dedication, Riverwalk has been pulled back from the brink of disaster. Yes, it's really been my pleasure working so intimately with the Ashton organization," Brett said smoothly, holding up his champagne glass. He turned to wink conspiratorially at Cassidy, who I noticed shifting uncomfortably in her seat. As coffee and dessert concluded, I rose again and dramatically dimmed the lights. A hush fell over the gala as all eyes turned towards the massive video screen behind me. "My dear friends and colleagues," I began solemnly, "I have an unfortunate confession to make. This past year has seen the Ashton name besmirched by sinister forces from within our own family." With that, I hit play, and a shocking video montage began playing, a combination of hidden camera footage and recorded phone conversations explicitly detailing Cassidy's vicious machinations against me from start to finish. Ruthlessly spreading slanderous lies, stealing data to sabotage Riverwalk, seducing Elliot as part of her twisted agenda, it was all laid horrifically bare. "No, no, Lorelei, you bitch! How could you?" Cassidy shrieked halfway through the damning footage, finally cottoning on. She made a dash to flee the mortifying scene, but security blocked the exits on my signal. As the final clip played, Cassidy admitting her entire sinister plot to undermine me for the inheritance to Brett's secret recordings, a sickly silence hung over the gala. I could only shake my head in exaggerated sorrow at my sister's depravity. "And to think I once called that wretched, avaricious woman my own flesh and blood," I lamented. Let this serve as a harsh lesson about the Ashton legacy. It is a privilege dearly earned through honor and integrity, not mutilated and stolen by greed and deception. Elliot finally spoke up, horror and disgust etched across his features. I had no idea the depths Cassidy was willing to sink to. I feel like such a fool for ever doubting you, Lorelei." As Cassidy collapsed in wailing hysterics, banished forever from the family and high society graces, I merely shrugged. I kept Dad's core instruction to heart. It was all about personal growth through noble tests of character. Well, Cassidy failed that test spectacularly, while I showed mine was pure Ashton gold. In the aftermath of having her malicious crimes exposed before the entire elite Ashton circle, Cassidy became a pariah. Overnight, she went from being the glamorous princess holding court to a shunned, scorned snake banished from the very world she'd clawed to be part of. As I watched the last of her society friends and sycophants desert her, I couldn't help but feel a tragic twinge. Cassidy had brought this utter humiliation upon herself through reprehensible behavior, yet some buried flicker of familial compassion still smoldered within me. My sister had slumped into a seemingly catatonic state in the wake of the gala debacle, holed up in the lavish Ashton manor where we'd grown up. I decided to pay her one last visit before severing ties permanently. "Lorelei," she mumbled without looking up as I entered the dimly lit parlor. "Here to revel in my downfall like the righteous victor you've become?" "Don't flatter yourself," I replied evenly. "Your undoing was an inevitable result of your own craven actions. I'm just ensuring the Ashton legacy remains pristine and uncorrupted after your vile betrayal." That seemed to stir something in Cassidy's eyes as she glared up at me with revived contempt. "Oh, it's always about the precious legacy with you, isn't it? Just like our father, using honor to justify grinding everyone else beneath your heel." I scoffed at her audacity to play the victim card. You had every opportunity to prove your worth the right way, through integrity and hard work. But that was never enough for the perpetually petulant princess, was it? Always hungering for the easy privileges and entitlement Daddy constantly lavished you with. Cassidy's hands balled into fists as tears of rage welled in her eyes. "You're damn right, I wanted everything handed to me. Everything that spiteful old man should have given his most cherished daughter without making me jump through hoops like a trained seal. Well, now you've not only blown that petty dream into oblivion, but utterly disgraced our family name." "Our family?" Cassidy cut in, her voice dripping with vitriolic hatred. "Please, we stopped being a real family the moment you murdered our parents' marriage through your obsessive, self-righteous need to be the perfect heir. Just admit they only had you to perpetuate their dynastic ambitions." That cruel accusation struck deeper than I expected, dredging up old buried resentments over the childhood I'd sacrificed. But I refused to show any flicker of hurt, steadying myself as I stared my forsaken sister down with finality. "I pity you, Cassidy, using Dad's tough love toward me as an excuse for your jealous tantrums and juvenile boot juice ipecac. You'll never recover a shred of the dignity and grace I've reclaimed for the Ashton name. Do us both a favor and stay gone for good." With that parting remark, I turned and strode from the room without looking back, granting Cassidy her disgraced exile as the doors slammed shut on her pathetic life. As the dust settled from my explosive falling out with Cassidy, I could finally turn my full focus to cementing my rightful claim as the heir to the Ashton Empire. First order of business was putting the final polishes on the newly rechristened Riverwalk Estates, the crown jewel development project that would symbolize a new era for our family's real estate prestige. "Just looks spectacular, doesn't it?" I murmured to Elliot as we toured the sprawling construction site, watching the sleek high-rise condos and gleaming riverside plazas taking shape. Elliot smiled warmly, seemingly relieved to resume our productive partnership. "It's even grander than the original plans you showed me ages ago. You've really outdone yourself on this one, Lorelei." "Well, I did have a bit of motivation to ensure Riverwalk became a smashing success, shall we say?" I replied wryly. "Indeed, and I have to commend you on how you've handled, well, everything with Cassidy," Elliot went on. "That whole ugliness at the gala, cutting her off completely, it couldn't have been easy separating family ties like that." I shrugged nonchalantly. She brought that isolation upon herself through her craven actions. The only family I care about now is upholding the integrity of the Ashton legacy she tried so viciously to defile. "A legacy you've ensured will continue to prosper for generations," Elliot said sincerely. "Your father would be proud of the grace and strength you've shown through this entire trial." I felt a modicum of humility at the praise as I glanced at the portrait of Dad hanging in the construction trailer, the gruff but principled visage I'd struggled to live up to all these years. Perhaps, in the end, his much-resented, tough love lessons had prepared me well. "Thank you, Elliot, for supporting me when it seemed the whole world was against me. I'm truly grateful." He gave my arm a reassuring squeeze. "You know I'll always have your back, Lorelei. We're partners, in business and whatever else life may have in store." His warm smile and twinkling eyes made the implication clear. While part of me felt emboldened to explore that avenue, another part pushed it aside for the moment. "For now, let's just focus on getting Riverwalk Estates off the ground and open," I replied. "Once this shining heritage piece is complete and redefines the city skyline, then we can properly celebrate all our achievements, both professional and personal." As we watched the construction crews hard at work, I couldn't help stealing one last look at my father's image. A silent sense of redemption washed over me, basking in having honored his principles through perseverance and integrity. I'd done far more than secure a vast real estate fortune. In persevering through Cassidy's malicious gauntlet, I'd regained the most precious of family legacies, the Ashton name itself.